Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for sticking with me here. We'll check out. Go ahead and hit the test on the chat. Let's see if it works. If not, I'll go ahead and take it off. I'm getting a little frustrated with this, but I'm so excited to talk about the team. And obviously, you guys are too if you're still waiting around to see if we're going to go live here. Hopefully, also let me know about the audio. Hopefully, it works. Had issues with that as well. So just let me know. Give me a few minutes here. We're going to test the chat a little bit here. And then we can get right into it because I know you guys are excited. There was a lot of big stuff that happened tonight in the final scrimmage. Let me know about the audio, though. If you guys are still there, let me know if it's working out for you. Audio good. Okay, let's get right into it. And hold on, I'm gonna fix this chat thing. Give me 2 seconds. Yeah, so anyways, okay, hold on. Let me do something here. Okay, I think the chat might be working here. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully everything's going okay. Okay, we're just gonna go. I think the chat's gonna show up now. I don't know what was going on. Let's get into it. Okay, let's go. I'm ready to do this. You guys are all here. Shout out to everybody that's here. You guys are diehard fans. Caned up, you're here as always. Blame Boy, D Nice, D. What's going on? Hopefully everybody's here. Lakers all day. Let's get right into it. De'Aaron King, huge day. 24 for 34, 330 yards, 6 touchdowns, the 94 yards rushing. You've got to be excited about that because it's again delivering on the hype. You know, you're getting results in the scrimmage. Season's just around the corner. You're hoping for those kind of numbers moving forward. Not necessarily the exact 330 and the 94, 6 touchdowns. That's great. What I'm looking at is the combination of that because that's what he did at Houston. Again, you get the solid passing numbers, you get the rushing numbers that are right there, and then you get the good efficiency and touch. It's everything the way it looks, whether it's 330 or 270 or 60 yards, 70. You know what I mean? Like you're looking for that consistent cluster of stats that you'd like to see because I think that's going to fluctuate, you know, depending on how the game goes. But you see it in the scrimmage tonight, and you're definitely excited about that moving forward because that's the exact numbers that you saw at Houston with the things that he's able to do. So the 6 touchdown passes tonight, and once again, it does not matter where they came from. Tonight was a situational scrimmage, so you're figuring they set up a lot of red zone stuff, and that's good to see as well. And maybe some of those touchdowns came in red zone, but my point is whether it came in red zone, third down, whether you mark the ball to the 10, whatever it is, you like the success rate of 6 touchdown passes, regardless of what it is, because Miami's not always been great with the red zone lately. So I think that's great to see. No matter where the ball was spotted, you're getting results and you're getting scores and you're getting touchdowns. I think that's great to see, a great sign moving forward. And I think this kind of performance, without a doubt, shows you exactly why everyone's excited about him. A lot of big-time receivers made plays tonight. Harley goes 5 for 78 with his touchdown. Mark Pope had a couple touchdowns. You know, there were guys making plays. And I think maybe some of you guys are a little bit surprised that they're having a scrimmage a few days out, but it was at Hard Rock Stadium, and the point that Manny Diaz made was, you know, De'Aaron's not been to Hard Rock. You know, you forget about that maybe a little bit, but De'Aaron was there on his recruiting visit, a little bit different. You mentioned a freshman haven't been there. You know, so I think it's good for those guys to get out there, see the stadium, and again, it's only 5 days away. I know you guys are excited. I appreciate you guys for stopping by and showing your patience throughout this, but maybe everything was just going to work out well with the chat, and I was just a little uncertain about it. Cynthia's here. Shout out to you. Mohips, what's going on? 70 Victor, definitely you're here. A lot of people still here. Daniel, what's going on? Okay, what do you guys want to talk about? I saw a lot of good predictions. Another thing I want to get to, not just the scrimmage tonight, and there's some other things I want to talk about too, is with the receivers, because I think that's good to see guys like Mark Pope have a good day. You know, you see Mike Harley reach the end zone once again. He's done that in the scrimmages. He started to show signs of that last year. Obviously, he started out his career, I want to say 20, 25 games without a touchdown. He starts to reach the end zone a little bit more last year, and now you're hoping maybe it continues. Smaller guys like that don't always reach the end zone as a wide receiver. You saw Braxton Berrios, I think he had 9 touchdowns in his final year. You would love that kind of production for a guy like Harley to get over that 5-6 mark where you're going 7, 8, 9, something like that. I think that'd be incredible, and you're seeing signs of that, and I think that's good. Again, De'Eric's making a big reason why he's able to do those kind of things. But I think it's good to see from Mike having a good time as well. The mic still has static. Maybe we're going to wrap this up quick. This has been frustrating. I don't know what to do. You know what? I'll just do this. Let me just switch mics here. Michael Redding, another one. I do not know what's going on with the microphone. It's not had issues like this before. I'll switch it real quick here. All right, let me know if this is working here. Does this audio work? Let me know. The static, I switched microphones. If it sounds terrible, we might just have to wrap this up. Oh, this is frustrating here, though. I'm here, but let me know if this works or not. We will move on from it. Let me know if there's static, if it's too echoey, anything like that. We might just have to set this thing up tomorrow and go for real. But let me know on this test right now. D says it's fine. Anybody else want to know let me know, like, does this work? Testing, and we're just talking about the Hurricanes because there's a lot of stuff to get to, and also watched the UAB game last night. I don't know if anybody else got a chance to watch that. I watched it all the way through, and I want to talk about some of the stuff that I noticed with their offense and how it plays with Miami as well. Yeah, D Nice. I'm not sure exactly. what happened with the static. You know, and some of that stuff, it's really frustrating because it's not like I did anything different than I normally do with the live stream. So uh, it is frustrating, and it just is what it is. I don't know. It's frustrating because there's so much to get to. So the other thing, yeah, Michael Redding had a good day. Mark Pope again, Mark Harley, all those guys. And I think just kind of going back to De'Eric, and that's one of the things. You know, some people might understand why is there excitement at Miami? Why is there after what happened last year and things like that? Why will this year be much different? And I know the offensive scheme, people are excited about that. But for me, the biggest thing is De'Eric King. He's a playmaker. He's a big-time player. He's an above-average quarterback for definitely. And you saw it tonight. And you're seeing why people are excited about him because he's able to do so many different things. And he's just in control. I think that's the best way to say. One thing that I was thinking about with this season, how the season might go, or even next week against UAB. UAB does some things well. They've got some good players individually, but I just don't see Miami getting themselves into these struggles in games because they have De'Eric. I think he's that big of a difference maker. And if you look at how last season went, for example, those 3 games, the way it ended, I just don't see that happening with De'Eric. I don't see him getting shut out in a bowl game against a Louisiana Tech team. He'll figure it out. I just don't see him, and I think, and the reason why I say that too, not just because of what he's been able to do, when you have a really good quarterback, you don't see those guys struggle like that. It's consistent. Now, they might not put up the monster numbers every single game, and they will lose games. And De'Eric comes into the season 11-8 as a starter. So certainly there are some things, he's not just he's not a perfect player by any means, but you just don't see those huge drop-offs, those huge games where you're like, what in the heck is going on? Like what we've seen from Miami, particularly on offense, the last few years sometimes. So I think if you're just going from that, just from like his bottom line baseline, I think you're going to be able to build off so much with that. And other guys certainly have to step up as well. But just having a guy like De'Eric is going to make such a big difference. And maybe people, don't quite aren't quite sure exactly what that looks like at Miami because we've not seen a quarterback just be able to completely have control of the game. There's always been some things that hold him back. Obviously with Jaron last year, but Malik Rozier had some things. He wasn't a perfect quarterback. We all know that. Even Brad Kai and his mobility and just wasn't able to win. You know what I mean? Like there were certain things, like even going back, whereas a guy like De'Eric checks so many different boxes. And again, you've seen that moving forward with these scrimmages. The 6 touchdown passes tonight. He's had 6 in the first 2, gives him 12 for the 3 scrimmages. You just have to love that kind of production. Once again, all this stuff is going towards the things he's already done. It's not like what exactly is he going to do, and I understand there will be a difference in conference play, but it's not this drastic difference between where he was playing before and the ACC. It's not this. Yes, there'll be better teams, but I don't think the ACC is. I just don't think it's like this huge difference, and I do think he'll be better. And if you want to say his teammates are better, that's only going to help him as well. Chug Mobeer's here. Glad you're here. Mohib as well. I'm glad you guys are here. Once again, we've had some struggles tonight and frustrations. I wanted to throw the computer out the window. I just wanted everything to work out well tonight. I'm glad you guys are here, though. And Richard's here as well. How are the running backs? Didn't hear much about the running game tonight. One thing I will say, and I haven't wrote the article yet, was guys are excited about the running game. Their teammates. Will Mallory spoke about it. He just thought, and I think a lot of guys are like this with upperclassmen. Yes, you hear about these guys as recruits. Jalen and Don obviously created a lot of excitement. But what Will said kind of early on, you felt like you could see, like, okay, this guy's the real deal, or oh, this guy makes plays. It didn't take them, either one of those guys, didn't take them long to make plays, and I think that's good to see from an upperclassman to say, yeah, these guys can play. And I think that's the same thing with Corey Gaynor said that as well, offensive lineman, and he's really excited about De'Eric King. And one thing he said too about De'Eric, and had the article on the site, was just he likes to hand the ball off to De'Eric and just kind of watch him do his thing. And I'm sure tonight was much of that. The huge performance. Manny Diaz is excited. My thing is this, and I think it's going to be fine because I think it's Rhett Lashley's nature. with just attacking and those kind of things. Anytime you have a defensive coach as your head coach, you do worry a little bit of, being conservative and those kind of things. And De'Eric is not that guy. Like, you need to let him do his thing. And I think he's going to excel enough that I don't think it's going to be an issue. You just want to make sure Manny's not just like looking for a game manager or anything like that, because I don't think that they should not take anything away from what De'Eric's able to do. And saying that, I would not be surprised. I think De'Eric's going to be fine, have a good game against UAB. I would not be surprised if we did not see him for those four quarters. If Miami gets a good lead, look for them to establish the run game, let De'Eric do his thing. But with those next 3 games, and I know we're looking ahead, but you have to. Louisville, Florida State, Clemson, that's a huge stretch of your season. They're going to definitely make sure that De'Eric's healthy. And so while you'd like to see him have this monster game and put up monster numbers for 4 quarters, maybe he's going to be pulled a little bit sooner if Miami does get that lead. And I don't want to get ahead of myself because I know how the last 3 games went. You guys know how I feel about that. And, just looking at UAB, watching the game last night. Okay, so they were 45-35 against Central Arkansas. Things that stood out to me, and there's an article on the site because I watched the offense. I watched the whole game, but I really paid attention to UAB's offense. So what stands out to me is they've got a good running back in Spencer Brown, 6 foot 220, over 3,000 yards in his career. He could play at Miami. He's a very good back. He's going to have a future. Injured last year, but the guy does a very good job in hitting the holes, and it's really going to challenge Miami's linebackers. Somebody asked about the cornerback play. Certainly they're going to need to play well as well, and I will get to that because they have a huge challenge as well. But with that running game with Spencer Brown, he's going to be the key, I think, because I could see UAB wanting to put the ball in his hands quite a bit. They've got 2 other running backs. Lucius Stanley, another big back, 215 pounds, scored a touchdown. He's got 10 in his career as a backup, so that's great for them. And then Jermaine Brown is that 5'8", 175, change of pace back. So that's what they have. They've got 3 backs. No trio has more rushing yards in the country, more than those 3, other than Clemson. And we know what Clemson can do and what they have there. So I think that's saying something. Regardless of the competition, it's impressive what they've been able to do. But not just what they have. You look at Spencer Brown, very, very good back, and what he's able to do. I think that they'll definitely want to go to him and try to get that running game going. I think it's going to be key for Miami's defensive tackles up the middle because the defensive ends, we're very excited about them. You guys know that. You guys are excited about the defensive ends. But definitely up the middle with the defensive tackles and then the linebackers. I'm very curious to see how the linebackers do for Miami this year. In this first game, they're going to be challenged with that running game. Miami doesn't have running backs that are 215 pounds, 220 pounds. So I think it's going to be a challenge for them because they've not faced them. And the first game, the whole thing, competition, you saw that against UAB. They kind of struggled in their first game, or their first quarter of their first game with tackling and things like that. And then they've eventually got it going there. But I definitely think that's going to be a key. I think that's the biggest thing, even though I do like some of the things that they have in the passing game. I think the big thing is the running game and stopping them. I think that's going to be the big thing. Miami's linebackers, Zach McLeod, Bradley Jennings, get used to his name because he's in the mix for sure. And then Sam Brooks, Avery Huff, and the other guys as well. So here we go. D-Nice, yes. The defensive tackles, not just disrupt, but they definitely need to make sure. Here's the thing. If the defensive tackles are playing average, if they're just a couple of guys out there, which at times they were last year, let's be honest. If they're not able to really create much there, teams are going to be able to, shift their offensive line a little bit to be able to handle the defensive ends, neutralize them a little bit. So the defensive tackles are going to need to not just make tackles against the run up the middle, but they're going to need to provide some pressure because you don't want teams to just forget about, okay, we don't have to worry about the defensive tackles. Let's focus everything on the defensive ends because you will be able to take them away, or at least a better chance if you're an offensive line. And I think the defensive tackles, if you think about it, John Ford played all of last year. He definitely needs to step up. Nesta has not started in his career. Highly regarded recruit. This is his 3rd year. He needs to step up. I don't think there's any question that defensive tackles, there's a lot of emphasis on them to do well this year, and we'll see. I understand why you want to be excited about him. I understand that there are things to like, but they need to produce and play at a high level. John Ford with the size And obviously Jordan Miller as a third defensive tackle has good size as well. But those guys got to make plays. They got to stop the run for sure. And once again, ease the pressure off the defensive ends. And they need to provide pressure as well. And you've seen that with Miami's defensive lines. You know, when Kendrick Norton, R.J. McIntosh were just there, you saw different defensive tackles. You know, when Pat Bethel was there, you know, and Ford last year, it was just different and not as effective. So you definitely see the impact good defensive tackles make. And I think it's very important this year, regardless of how good the defensive ends are. Wideout stood on the scrimmage. Yeah, I want to look at the stats real quick. I want to make sure I get this right, but I do know, and I want to put that up there. Maybe that will be helpful. But Mike Hartley goes 5 for 78 and a touchdown, and he led the receivers. I'm going to make sure I want to get these stats right here. I'm going to look them up real quick, make sure I have them. But yeah, we mentioned earlier, Michael Redding III, the freshman, had 2 touchdown catches. Great to see from him. He missed a little bit of fall with injuries, or dealing with an injury, but he's back. He did well. Okay, so here we go. So yeah, Mike Hartley, 5 for 78 and a touchdown. Jeremiah Payton, 3 catches, 95 yards and a touchdown. Mark Pope, 4 for 65 and 2 touchdowns. And then Cameron Harris, Will Mallory had a touchdown catch, and then the Michael Redding had the 2. So once again, and maybe I should put that up there on the stats. Let me do that real quick. So then, because I want to make sure, let's get into this wide receiver stuff. We talked about D'Eriq King quite a bit. There's a lot to talk about with him, but I think you guys, most of you guys have been paying attention. You understand how good he is. You understand the things that he does well, and how, you know, the impact that he's going to make. So let's get these stats up here. So we got Harley. He goes 5 for 78 and with a touchdown. Peyton goes 3 for 95 and a touchdown. Pope goes 465 and 2. Let's get this up here real quick. Because I definitely want to talk about each one here, guys. So there we go. So the thing about the wide receivers, and it was great to see. And I think whenever you guys see these stats and you hear about certain guys, you know, I think what stands out is like, where was D. Wiggins? And, you know, let's just talk about these guys right here, these first 3. So Mike Hartley, I talked about it because I think it's great to see him reach the end zone. You know, once again, it was a guy that didn't do that very often early in his career, but he gets that touchdown tonight. He had one early. He had 2 in the first scrimmage, so he's getting the end zone. He's developing that continuity with D'Eriq King, and that's great to see because Mike's going to be on the field. And I think, you know, the 78 yards, it's great to see that he's able to stretch it out a little bit, so that's good to see. I think he's a guy that, I don't know if he's overlooked. I just think that more people are a lot more interested in D. Wiggins, Mark Pope, Jeremiah Payton, the other 3 wide receivers at the top. And I don't know if it's because Mike's a senior or anything like that, but if Mike's going to, I think if Mike does well, it's going to help that room out quite a bit because he's a very good leader. He speaks, he does things the right way, those kind of things. You like that. He's got a good personality, you know, funny, jokes around with the guys and things like that. And I think that kind of personality mixed with his work ethic and that he's a senior, he's a guy that really cares about the team and all that stuff. I think all of those factors play into if he can do well. I think that's going to help out the whole wide receiver group, that the oldest guy in the group, the most experienced player, is doing well. And you definitely should be encouraged by some of the things you're seeing with the scrimmages from him. So it's good to see another good sign as he's doing well there. Mason's here. Shout out to Mason, Brother Jay as well. Cody's here as well. Shout out to all you guys that are here. I cannot believe you guys are here. We had that monster struggle early on, but we're not going to talk about it too much. We're going to talk about all the good things that we got going on. Now, all this positive stuff. Keep dropping in the comments. Definitely appreciate you. I think Mark Pope, I think what you saw tonight is great to see from him, because once again, everybody wants Mark Pope to do well because he was a highly regarded recruit. You're wondering, when is he going to take off? When is he going to have that breakout season or breakout game? And you see signs, like you saw this summer with the training videos. You see his footwork and his, his quickness and his speed, and you're like, man, where is, you want to see that all put together and be productive on the field. You look at him and you see the thing. You remember what he did at Southridge in the state championship game, and once again, you hear about wide receivers coach Rob Likens talking about a guy like Mark Pope. He loves that mold of a receiver, that 6'1", 180 kind of mold. And so you want to see Mark put it all together and have one of those big years. And a quarterback like De'Aaron King, who is a guy that to me is going to distribute the ball absolutely where it needs to go, regardless of where the primary target, the primary receiver is. I think De'Aaron's going to look around, and whoever's getting open is going to spread the ball around. That's, once again, he's done that. He's completed a number of passes over his career. Experienced player, a guy that's worked with a lot of different wide receivers. He's going to, pump the ball in wherever it needs to go. And I think a guy like Mark, that'd be good for Mark, because if he gets open, he should see the results, see the ball. JT, what's going on? I'm glad you're here, man. Okay, that's awesome. Glad you're here. Shout out to you. So I think it's good that Mark definitely is making progress. And the one thing too, a lot's made of it. And also, I remember media day when Mark was a freshman. He admitted about the playbook. So I think everyone knows, that he wants to. I think a lot is made of it. I'll say that. And I think my understanding is, yes, maybe Mark struggled with it early on, like most freshmen do, but he felt okay with it last year. And even he seems to speak confident about things now with the offense. And Rhett Lashley talks about where he feels like not only does he know what's going on, but he feels comfortable out there where he can just go out and play. And I think that's great. And I think Mark's a guy that's going to do well. And I think all four, like if you look at all four of the wide receivers, there's enough passes to go around with those four. If they're healthy on the field, I think you're going to see guys produce. Now, I don't expect every guy to have 50 catches or anything like that, but I do think guys are going to put up good numbers when they get their opportunity. I think it'll be a quartet where we've not seen, four guys really excel, in the four receivers really excel with their numbers. But I think you'll see that this year, because once again, I don't think any one of them is automatically the best receiver. You can make arguments for all of them. Even a guy like Jeremiah Payton, who's got a lot of talent, even though he's not been nearly as productive as the other guys, you could see that a guy like Jeremiah really rise up and have a good season. I don't think it's crazy to think that maybe he would emerge, or any one of them. D. Wiggins, if his hands are improving and his route running is improving, he has the downfield speed and the size, so you could see him be the most productive receiver. A guy like Mark Pope, touched on him, his abilities. It's there. Mike Harley, the senior connection, that kind of thing. Like you can see each one of these guys, have really good years. And I think that's great to see. I would be personally surprised if one of those gets dropped out or left out of the mix, where their numbers are really trailing the other three. I do expect it to be four. And I think the fourth one with Peyton, once again, because he just had the one catch last year, he would be the guy that you're looking at. But I just think his talent is there, his abilities are there. You saw tonight, the 3 catches, 95 yards and a touchdown. It's great to see from him moving forward as the season's just right around the corner. I don't think tonight's number, and maybe you're looking at some of this, it's like, well, what was the competition like? What defensive grouping were they going against? I just think, for me, you want to see guys produce regardless of who they're going against, and I think it's great to see. And I think tonight was a good sign of that. Let's get to some questions. If you guys have some comments, I could touch on UAB a little bit, because I definitely want to get to the wide receiver and the quarterback situation at UAB. Brother Jay, yeah, substitution and personnel package is very important. There's no doubt about that. Cody, any chance our offense is superb this year and our defense is overwhelmed? Okay, so I think that's a good question. I think, and I think that would be a reverse, right? I think that's what you're thinking. Like, okay, the defense has been better, but what about if it's the other way around? I will say this. I do think the linebackers are a question mark. I think that they've got stuff to prove. I think one thing that maybe gets lost a little bit. Yeah, Quarterman and Pinckney started all 4 years and things like that. It felt the way last year went with the 6 wins. It seemed like there was obviously, I don't know if rift is the right word. I don't want, maybe that's saying it too strongly, but there wasn't that connection, understandably so, because he's a first-year defensive coordinator, between Blake Baker and those two. Because he comes in, he's a first-year coordinator. There, and obviously when you heard Manny Diaz step in mid-season and kind of handle some things there, you had to have looked at those guys. And once again, I don't want to say rift because I don't think that. I just want to say maybe just the connection was not there. So, but one thing I'll say is the 6 wins, with Cornerback and Pinckney, I don't know if people grew tired of them, but maybe you're just expecting them to really do more or have bigger years. Okay, so with that, and I think I said it right. I don't want to diminish what they did, and I'm not trying to overemphasize it. My point is, they did do things well, and I think it often got overlooked, even though you didn't see this huge jump from them. And my point is, I don't know if it was taken for granted that they started the 4 years, but there will be a difference between seeing these guys now this year with Zach McLeod. He's a guy that has played, but he was not nearly as good as Shaq or Pinckney when they played together. And a guy like Bradley Jennings looks like he's that number 2 linebacker, and he's been played sparingly over his career. So I think if you talk about, will the defense regress a little bit, those kind of things, I think that's what you're looking at. Maybe the linebackers aren't going to be as good, as productive. I'm a little concerned about that. And then also the secondary. You want to see more from the secondary. But I do think that the big thing for me, and I cannot get it out of my head, is just the defensive ends are going to have a really good season. And I think they're going to help out that back 7 with the linebackers stepping in with the secondary there. I think those 2 defensive ends are going to be above average players who can really make a big difference. Once again, the defensive tackles just need to be solid. The only thing I'll say is I personally felt, I know he's just one player, but when Rousseau left, I felt a lot different about the defense. And I don't know, I just felt like they were going to be definitely fine. And then like you take one huge piece out, then you're like, okay. But if it's something that happens to Quincy or Jalen, I think and that's a huge drop off once again. And then you're talking about a defense that we'll definitely see. So anyways, there is a chance, but once again, the pressure that De'Aaron King and the offense can put on teams, you're gonna hopefully see that it helps the defense, that they don't have to be perfect and they don't have to have these unbelievable games, whereas the offense should be the better of the 2 units. I don't think there's any question about that. I think De'Aaron's that good, that much of a difference maker. Okay, so what are we going? Okay, we got all kinds of people in here. Tim's in here. We need a 4th running back at some point. I don't think so. I think it's fine. They've got 3. I know what you're saying. Robert Burns is back practicing. I think he's their 4th running back, and they'll go with that. I don't think that it's going to be a huge issue if they get to the 4th. I think they'll just pass more. I know what you're saying. Definitely not ideal. But I just think that they have such a strength in the passing game that they'll just pass it more if they run through all the gauntlet of the 3 if something happens. But I'm like you, Tim. Like I'd feel more comfortable if they did have more running backs on the roster. Okay, so what else have we got here? JT, it's a fair question. I think that's the big thing that you always look at. Okay, so the offense does well. Why is the defense? Or like with the running backs, Jalen Knighton, Don Chaney, Cameron Harris each took their turns. Okay, is the defense not stopping the run well enough? Yeah, I bet there's part of that. Okay, if the offense is doing really well in the passing game, that's great, but what does that mean about the secondary? What does it mean with the defense? I definitely think that the secondary has stuff to prove. You know, DJ Ivey, the Pro Football Focus analytics, whether you believe him or not, do not favor him very well. You know, Al Blades still needs to, you know, take that jump as a player. They started last year. You hope that they make progress moving forward. Are they all ACC performers or caliber performers? At this point, I would say no, but certainly they've got experience, and you're hoping they take the jump. I think there is a question mark with those guys, and I think they're going to see it, and we'll see. And I obviously you're hoping for the best. They've got a challenge on Thursday night against UAB. Justin Watkins, I apologize, Austin Watkins Jr. The J kind of switched me up, but Austin Watkins Jr. 6'3", 210 pounds. Had a 1,000-yard season last year, averaged 19 yards a catch, so he's got some deep playability. He looked good on Thursday. He's a guy that physical. He also is listed not just of his size, but you know, Bruce Feldman does his freak athletes around college football. He was listed as one of those as well, so there's some athleticism there. And I think he's going to be a challenge for Miami. Miami does not have a wide receiver that big at 210 pounds. You know, and I think even though DJ and Al are on the bigger side as a corner, I think that they're going to have their hands full. And so we'll see. We'll see how they do in that matchup. And I think, you know, what better way as you get ready for, once again, with Louisville coming up, you guys know about Tutu Atwell, a different receiver, smaller, but very good, led the ACC in receiving yards. You know, and then Florida State will have receivers back as well. Terry, you know, they've got guys, and then obviously Clemson. So this is going to be a good test for them. And while UAB, you know, there is a drop off, I like their second receiver, Mitchell, number 5, smaller guy, kind of in that Mark Pope mold. So he'll be a challenge as well. But I really look at Watkins, just that bigger receiver. How will they be able to handle him moving forward? And you know, and I think without question, you know, Miami's receivers give Miami's corners good tests. They just don't have that big receiver and a guy that's been productive. So we'll see how it goes. But if they do well, and all eyes on them, really. I mean, Blades and Ivy. The one thing I will say, and I was kind of listening back to Mike Rump when he was talking about the cornerback situation, and we'll see immediately. I want to say, I think it was right after we talked, right after the bowl game, whatever signing did, I don't know. I remember specifically when the season, either when they had one game left or right at the end of the year when we talked to him, I asked Mike about the cornerbacks, particularly with Couch and Williams, and my question to him was, can they legitimately be in the mix to start or have a lot of playing time with Ivy and Blades as part-time starters this past year? You know, they're already ahead of Couch and Williams based on a year worth of experience, but can Couch and Williams really jump into that mix? And that's my thing with coaching. Look, it's easy to just slot guys in because they have more experience. You know, it takes a lot for you, like, okay, I'm going to start the younger guy, or I'm going to start the younger guy over the older guy who has more experience and who has started games. You don't see that all the time with coaching. It's not just these coaches, it's any coach. And you can understand why they might be a little reluctant. So I asked Mike about that, and I'm bringing this up because I asked him about it then, just to see if it was a possibility. And of course, he spoke on it, like, yeah, definitely, and we'll see. But I didn't ask him this in the fall, like a couple weeks ago, I think a week or so. He talked about the competition, and one thing that he said was, we're going off the statistics each practice, and whoever is having the best practices, we're going to start them. So we'll see who starts. I'm not saying Corey Couch is going to start or Christian Williams or anything, but we'll see if there's going to be a move there that based on fall camp, and we don't know exactly, you know, not being out there, and it's difficult to know exactly which corners are doing well. I just, in my head, I'm thinking, you know, and who knows, maybe Mike's just saying whatever he wants to say, and they're just going to roll out DJ and Al, and those are the best two, and maybe they are. But, you know, I just think it's something to watch because Mike, once again, he hinted at it, and, you know, last year's defense or last year's team, certainly, guys, they shouldn't have every position just locked up automatically because they weren't good enough last year. That's the bottom line. Not just the corners, but a lot of spots. So we'll see moving forward. I did ask Mark Pope about Corey Couch, and he just said, he really likes, he plays hard. He's aggressive. Don't let the size fool you. And I think that was a good sign. Corey's a guy that's intercepted a pass in a scrimmage. He has that knack. I just think he's someone to watch for. And then Christian Williams did really well in the spring. I remember Blake Baker spoke about him in the spring. So just keep an eye on those two guys as playing time gets divvied out on Thursday. It wouldn't shock me because, once again, there's a little bit of talk, and maybe they're having really good practices and we'll vault those guys, but we'll see. We'll definitely see. Obviously, you still project those guys as the starters with Al and DJ, but we'll see. And maybe you guys are right. Maybe you guys are seeing like, hey, who's giving up all these passing yards and all these touchdowns? And if it is those guys, maybe other guys are outperforming them and it's time to make a move, and we'll see. I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with a lot of personnel. You're hearing about it on the offensive line. I think by now we kind of know who's going to start there. They're making moves off of guys who started last year. But the other positions, we'll see. There's a new offensive line coach, so it's maybe easier to make a move there. Whereas Rump has been there, Band has been there. I think it's safety. Who are they going to start safety? Amari Carter has more playing time over his career than Bubba, but I think you guys understand his talent. So will they make that move? What will they do there? So I'm very interested to see in that first game, and I think it's going to be pretty telling with the first game because, once again, it's everything that they've been working towards over the offseason, over fall camp, and then they've got 3 big games coming up. So I don't think they're going to mess around and just throw guys out there just because. I think they're going to throw the guys out there that have earned it, and that's probably the biggest thing I'm going to be watching, particularly is play count. We always keep track of that. You'll see that on the site. Snap count for all the players. We definitely do that because I think it's very interesting to see, and it's also hard to see when you're watching it live because of the TV angle. Obviously, if you're there at the game, it's kind of hard to see every single play, but I always think that's very important to watch. Jay Miami, yeah, you're right. Start the Dogs. I think I don't think there's any question. And once again, there's a lot of spots that should be open, and we'll see how it goes. Like I said, very interested. Mason, do you think Terry's the best receiver in the ACC? Yeah, he's definitely very good, man. But how can you knock what Tutu did last year, man? He led the ACC in receiving. He's a year older. It just depends what you like with the taller guy with Terry, but Tutu's able to do so much of the playmaking. The playmaking ability is certainly very good. And what North Carolina has at wide receiver is also very impressive. I think North Carolina is going to be one of those teams that's going to be. I think Miami, if you're looking at teams to watch in the ACC, if you're Miami, obviously you're watching Clemson with the one division. It makes it very interesting with so Notre Dame jumps in. But North Carolina is going to be that team I think Miami should definitely be watching all year long because they don't play North Carolina until the final game of the regular season, and it could be a lot at stake. It could be a lot of hype for that game, a lot of interest. So I think if you guys are looking, and I don't think everybody watches every single ACC team, but North Carolina, to me, is definitely a team to watch. And I think it's a team that certainly, and again, moving forward for next year, when they go back to the divisions, Miami and North Carolina should be right there at the top competing for that division title once again. So definitely just watch that. Tim, that's a good question about Amari. When Amari was made available to us in the media, that was, typically we only get one question to ask, and I asked him straight up, have you been playing striker? And he said no. So can he? I think absolutely he can. I don't know why they've not decided to do that, to be honest. I understand. I know what they want. They want the 3 guys rotating at safety and just going that way. For me, I'd rather have Amari there at striker than Gilbert Frierson. That's my personal opinion. I know some of you guys like Gilbert. I would just feel more comfortable putting Bubba and Gervin in the back, Amari in the box. He's a good tackler. I think he's very good, close to the line of scrimmage, making tackles. And me personally, I would do that. The thing is, and I guess what's surprising, Tim, is that's not out of the box thinking. But why haven't they tried it? I think that's the thing. And you know, if they're going to try it later, it's going to feel like wasted opportunity to do that. And I think fall camp is the time to do that. So I'm a little surprised that he says he hasn't worked there. But once again, I know their line of thinking is they want to rotate 3 safeties and do it that way. So I just wonder if they're going to revisit that, because I do think he'd be their best option. Okay, I need to drink some water, guys. Okay, J-My, I'm not sure how hyped to be. We're always national champion. Yeah, you're right. You're right, man. If you've been a fan of Miami for a long time, it's been like that. And certainly for me covering the team, like, I get it. I guess the thing is, everybody looks at Miami as, okay, we didn't do well because it's on us. We should have been better. And because of the ACC, the competition, you don't give a lot of instant respect to the ACC teams because they do not have that program tradition. I'm not talking about Clemson, Florida State, even Virginia Tech, but outside of those 3, while Louisville's been good in times, they just don't have this long-standing tradition. North Carolina or Duke, it doesn't matter how good of a Duke team is. Miami fans and the program is just not going to just take a Duke loss like it's not that it's not a big deal. So when you come to the offseason, you basically try to push away everything that happened in the past. We're going to be better this year. We have good recruits. I think that's the line of thinking people think is, okay, we've got better recruits. We've got to fix the coaching thing. It's like this every year, it feels like. And I know there was a comment earlier that I missed, but I saw it in the sense that you got to give Manny credit for making the assistant coaching changes he needed to make after the first year. So I agree. Buddy, what's going on? Shout out to you. Always glad you're here. Glad you're here. Definitely. J-Miami, the thing I'll say about with last year, and I personally, I didn't feel the same way about Jaron as I did De'Aaron going into the year. I would not have said this is a team that should have this great year last year. I wouldn't have said that. You didn't hear me say those kind of things. The reason why I feel like things are different is because I do think De'Aaron is that difference maker. I don't think he's just the hype. I don't think he's just, well, maybe he'll be good. I think he's good, and I think at quarterback, it makes a big difference. Once again, I touched on a few things that UAB does well. They won 9 games last year in the Conference USA. We know how Miami did against Conference USA teams. They've got some good guys on defense. I like Christopher Moll, the linebacker. I touched on some of their offensive weapons a little bit. The quarterback's back, Tyler Johnson III, although he did rotate a little bit with the freshman Lucero there in the first game. But it takes when you have a good quarterback like that, like I said, it's just not, a lot has to happen for things to not go right. And I just think that De'Aaron is, the quarterback position in general, when you have a good quarterback, it makes such a big difference. And I think they've got enough good pieces. They have above average piece at tight end. Don't talk about Brevin. I didn't talk about him tonight until now because you're talking about the wide receivers. And I think the wide receivers are talented and solid. There's some flashing ability there. But a guy like Brevin is definitely above average tight end. So you definitely like that. And so you're hoping that combination, we haven't talked about the running game tonight. We talk about it all the time though. But Jalen Knighton's got a chance to be really special. And I think hopefully if you're a Miami fan, you see that in the first game. And I'm almost expecting him to have one big run where you're going to be like, wow, we haven't seen that in a while. So I think you're going to see that in that first game, assuming he gets the right amount of touches. But I think even if he only gets 8 to 10 carries, I bet one goes for, I would assume he does reel off a big one. So my thing with the running game is, will they go to Jalen to get a bulk of the carries, or how soon or how long is it going to take for him to keep doing that? Is Cam going to be able to hold him off if he's not having those big runs, or they just kind of write out 3 different guys with Don as well with that running game? So as far as like the hype and things like that, and I think it's better just to, maybe don't get too excited just because it definitely hurts the way things have gone. I just think De'Aaron is such a difference maker, and that you'll feel at ease because you're like, okay, well, we have De'Aaron, and he'll be fine. We just need everything else to kind of just fall in line. And what you're hoping for is those guys, offense and defense, that just they get comfortable, and then they're productive as soon as possible, and you don't have a lot of position changes or position uncertainties as the season goes on. So I think that's my big thing. And I know the offensive line was tough last year as well. They're trying to rotate some different guys in there. I just really think that De'Eric is such a difference maker that they'll be fine. So Trill, what's going on? Shout out to you. Glad you're here. JD is here as well. That's awesome. Shout out to you guys. Trill, yeah, Gilbert to corner. I think that's an interesting move, just because they need some guys. The only thing I'd say, and maybe you guys saw it last year, it just felt like when Gilbert was in one-on-one matchups, and I don't know if it's certainly perception, because he was not committing penalties every single play. It just felt noticeable. Or even from that first game, that Florida, that big play he gave up there. So I think that if he's going to play corner, he's definitely going to have to be able to lock down. And Trill, to be honest with you, because of Gil, with Frierson's weight change, I don't know if he's like, I don't want to say he's not built to be corner, but it's not like he was. Like, he is really, he's definitely added weight, so he would be a bigger corner if it works out. That's definitely a good sign. But it definitely, it's definitely just, I just think that's something that has happened because he's been working to be a striker. So I don't think it's as easy just to throw him at corner the way you would have when he was younger. Okay, so yeah, Tim on the passing down. Okay, that's good with Amari. Good move there. Jay Miami, no doubt, man. I'm glad it helps me because I can rattle all kinds. We can talk about all kinds of stuff. I can just talk and stuff, but I always like when you guys want to talk about stuff. So I definitely appreciate you jumping in and with a comment there, buddy. What's going on? Once again, I'm glad you're here, man, and maybe you just jumped on. Little struggles earlier, so everybody here has showed great patience through all that. So. But anyways, real quick, I want to show you guys real quick, and shout out to anybody that watched the Face of the Franchise. You see that my shirt right here? I had to wear it tonight. And real quick, if you can see it, I got the De'Eric King Face of the Franchise shirt. I had to throw that on tonight because of the big performance. So definitely enjoyed doing that. And maybe you've seen some of the stuff I've done with the Yard and Jalen Knighton on Madden 21. Shout out to everybody that's been watching that a little bit. I have some big stuff coming. The next episode, I'm going to be playing in the port of Miami, and I got some great gear to get you guys excited for this season. And other fans of ITU games, the playlist, if you guys haven't seen that, definitely check that out. It's the video game section I created a few months ago. But I'm just going to tell you guys real quick, I got some breakthrough information on a new video I'm going to do, a couple of them actually, with the Friday Night Lights series, with the high school games that you guys saw me put together I did the Northwestern Miami Central game. Definitely check that out if you guys haven't yet. And if you're not going to watch the whole thing, just definitely watch the beginning because I got the band playing in it. I love the intro. And then Palmetto American Heritage, I did that as well. Create the teams on Madden, the high school, and create the uniforms. But anyways, I got some other ones that I don't want to give too many big hints away, but just the last couple days I've got some breakthroughs with that. I'm definitely excited about it. I'd love to be able to get one done before the first game. I hate putting that pressure on, but game's on Thursday, and obviously the main focus is always talking about the team first, but just this little side stuff I've been able to do, and I think many of you have found that you like those videos. So once again, working on those. In the simulations, I haven't done that. I actually was thinking maybe you guys would think about this, but I actually just thought maybe just for, you got to feel bad for maybe some of the teams that aren't playing this season that have already canceled their year. I thought about maybe doing a simulation, shouting out to the Pac-12, and looks like the Big Ten might come back, but maybe throwing those guys, like to see their team out there, because I think people really like those simulations where I could get the 2020 rosters out there, and maybe I just might do that for them. Might do that as well. So Mason, how do I make them? Yeah, I I don't. It's a lot of work just with modding and getting into it and everything like that. So it's definitely it definitely taught myself how to do it, and I've tried to get better at it. I think that's the biggest thing. It's definitely been a grind, and there's certainly people that do it better than I do, but I'm definitely having fun with it, and definitely want to keep that thing going. So that's just kind of veering off, and just kind of veering off too. If anybody wants to show their support, now we have some merch for sale. You got to check that out. It's at the bottom of the video, and you know, I could pin a shirt real quick here, just show you guys if you haven't seen it yet. Yeah, we'll just do this one right here. So you see it there at the top of the chat. This is the Inside the UT. If you guys want to show your support, custom designs. I got this graphic designers working on some cool designs, and I've got some other things I'm working on too. You can definitely, if you want to support the channel, support the site, anything like that, you can get your shirts, and there's some nice stuff. There's a hoodie in there for you, for some of you if you're around the country getting ready for fall weather. The hoodie looks nice. I'm a big fan of that. And then I also have, yeah, there's my favorite one, to be honest, is the football beach tee. It's the black one. It looks really cool. So definitely I like that as well. So yeah, John's here, Andre's here as well. Yeah, drop some likes, man. That you're right. You know what? I felt like I put so much emphasis on trying to get to 10,000, and really, and you guys probably heard me. You probably got tired of me saying like hit the subscribe button, but man, we picked up a number of subscribers over the last few months to get to 10,000, and I know there's many sites and many channels that have more and the whole thing, and I know, you know, people do, but it's not about everybody else. It's just about what, you know, what I got going on here, and all of your support. And I'm so proud of everyone, and so happy that you guys showed your support to reach that mark. I think it's a big mark, man. Like, we definitely didn't, you know, definitely a lot less last year at this time, and just trying to continue to grow. And really, if you see the site, like, you're seeing some changes, not just with the live stream. This is new. Hopefully you like the new look. I was very disappointed with the audio. I hate when things don't work out like that. A little frustrating, but basically always working on a new look. The new logos that you guys see, like I said, the merch there with the shirts. If you see the graphics changing on the site, just trying to really enhance things and really put more effort into videos and recruiting stuff, and also, you know, if you guys are big fans of the basketball and baseball, I'm always doing that. And like I said, the video, just trying to make this channel as best as I can. And so when you guys subscribe and when you guys hit the like button, it definitely, what it does is it helps spread the word to other people, that, hey, go check out InsideTheU's YouTube channel. And one of the things that I felt like is a little bit of a challenge is because, yes, I've had a channel for years, but I wouldn't say it was dormant. It needed its work. I didn't put as much time and effort into it as I should have. And so maybe people thought, well, it's not a good channel, I don't need to mess with it and things like that. And I understand it. So I feel like I'm trying to, like, maybe fight some of that with the reputation that was built on my, you know, my fault, because I didn't do enough with it. But now definitely cranking it up and giving you guys, because that's the thing too. And guys like Buddy, anybody that's donated and things like that and showing your support with the super chats or anything, it just, you know, right now, the fact that you guys are on here now, it's always so humbling, but like, especially now, because you guys waited for me to get this thing going, and you guys still dropped on here. Guys like JD, no, man, you rule, man. I appreciate the support, but like, everybody that shows their support, it's very, very appreciative of it. And it motivates me to, like, keep it going and get this thing going even more. And we got to 10,000, we did it, but I'm not gonna lie, I want 20K. Like, I want to do it next year at this time, and I know doubling up would be crazy, and it's also crazy because of not being able to be out there and go create content the way I would like. But you guys have been doing a great job watching the highlights, or I try to cut them up differently than UM. Either do player highlights or freshmen or offensive line. I have one like that, or just kind of continuing to try to do as much as I can and create stuff the best I can for you guys, because I want to get this channel going even more. So, and honestly, look, the channel is a reflection on you guys and how how much support you got and how much you guys love the Miami Hurricanes. Really, like that's what you guys want. And you know, if I'm over here talking about something else, you're not going to be here. You're here because you want to hear me talk about the Miami Hurricanes. You guys want to talk about them. You guys have questions. You want to talk about the season. You want to chat with everybody else. You guys are getting excited. I'm curious about you guys. If you're not able to go to games this year, like what are some things that are you going to be able to do? Do you have some cool things maybe set up at home that you guys are getting excited for? Maybe even, you know, maybe many of you go to games all the time and you're like, okay, every year I get something new for the tailgate, bigger, better. Maybe you get some new gear each year, a new jersey or something, and maybe you're not able to do that because if you're not going to be going to games this year, but maybe you're going to do it at home, doing something big with that home gating style and getting excited for that. Even though it's certainly not the same, but maybe there's some things you guys are doing. Definitely let me know. And many of you have crazy man cave pictures and all kinds of cool stuff with the Miami gear and all kinds of really neat stuff that I always like seeing. I think it's really cool. So, and Mason, you know, I really appreciate because you know what, by you saying that, you know, there's so many good people out here, and like I watch other people that do it. Like I said, they do it better than I do, and I try to pick up a little bit with what they do. And I know there's a lot of people grinding. You know, shout out to everybody that's grinding on Miami Hurricane stuff too. There's so many people doing good things as well. I'm just trying to be able to basically talk to you guys a little bit more. I've been writing for years. I've not been in front of the camera. And this is a way for me to just kind of provide a face, a different voice, or maybe explain some of the things that I'm writing or thinking a little bit better. And honestly, I really like doing this because I like reading your guys' comments. Like right now, like I like seeing what you guys are talking about and kind of get your takes as well because, yeah, I just like seeing what you guys have in mind. So that's why I always want the chats to be going and doing well. And one of the things too that's really cool is once this is done and once I get this live stream over, you can watch it back. So, and if anybody's just jumping on late, and I know Neo was here earlier, they're working late, and anybody else working late jumping on now, we could definitely go back and talk about De'Eric because not everybody just watches the whole thing through. The big news tonight with De'Eric having that monster game, but yeah, Mason, I am a reporter covering the Canes, but you're definitely a good dude too, man, because you're always here, always showing your support of your squad and the channel, man. Anybody that wants to watch the channel. And I know too, like whenever I do the stuff on the simulations, I know it's not just for the Miami fans because I think other people like seeing their teams as well. There's been other things like that. I think with the the basketball series, for example, you know, there was a Florida State fan, Syracuse fan. They like seeing their teams, even though I was working on Miami and my friend Rylan was doing Virginia Tech. And we're going to pick that up again soon as we get into the off season. So I've been kind of taking a break from that. But I just, you know, I think it's great. I think it's all love for everybody as much as possible. All the positive support that we can get is great. So what else do we go? Yeah, we got, okay, yeah, Phil is here. Phil the Cane is here. Okay, shout out to you. What is up? Hopefully you're having a good night. Hopefully everyone had a good week. Once again, kind of staying positive, being well, family, friends, and those kind of things. Everybody's being safe and doing what they can do. So, yeah, John's excited because he wants De'Eric to dominate college football. You should be excited, man. And if you guys have covered, if you followed my work over the years, you know that I don't always get into the hype or overdo it, or I'm definitely a lot more reserved when it comes to that because there are things I see that I don't particularly think are good, and I'll say it and I think it, and it's just basically my opinions. So my point is, I don't do this every season in the sense of, oh, Miami's definitely perfect and they're going to be great and all these things automatically because they have the U on their helmet. You guys know I don't do that. But I will say this though, and I understand if you're going to be reserved, I understand. I know what happened last year. You guys know what happened last year. You know how it ended. I just think, once again, De'Eric is that difference maker. There are other areas on the team that need to be better. There's no doubt about it. This is not a team that has all of the holes filled. I just think a guy like De'Eric can make that big of a difference. If he's not on the team, you're talking about a completely different team, I think. And I think that that's where it starts. That's why you should be excited, or I think that's why you are excited. And I understand the offense too. You like the scheme, and I think that'll be good. I just think that De'Eric is the one that will make the biggest difference. And touchdown on earlier, I think Jalen Knighton's got a chance to be special. I do. I think he's got a chance to be a really good back. They've got to get the ball in his hands, and then when he gets the ball in his hands, he kind of just does his thing, and I think that's great. And I know that maybe you're looking at, okay, well, what if the offensive? I just think guys like De'Eric and Jalen are special enough that they can do their thing once they get the ball in their hands. And I think those guys are difference makers. They're playmakers, and I think those are two guys that definitely you should be excited for. And hopefully moving forward, there are more ACC caliber guys on the team because you want everything, you want all the pieces to fill in and be solid. You don't want to have question marks at certain spots here. Yeah, Jake Garcia will be watching the UAB game. By the way, and I didn't check because I've been worried about the scrimmage. Did anyone hear how Jake did tonight? They had their first game there, Valdosta. If anybody could drop in, that I think not just me, I'm curious but I think some of you guys would like to know how Jake did tonight. They had their season opener, so definitely let us know in the chat. It's crazy. I don't know, maybe it's you guys, maybe it's just me, but it felt like the season was never going to happen, and it certainly felt like the months it just felt like a really long ways away. And now all of a sudden you're seeing high school teams going. You saw college football is underway. Like you're seeing games, and that was the thing on Thursday watching UAB. And once again, it wasn't just that it was college football. It was Miami's first opponent. So it's actually watching it and trying to get something from it. It's not just watching it just to watch it and just want to see the ball fly around and some guys make some hits. You're seeing what Miami is going to face, and what's great too, it's not even down the road. It's literally in a week. So the other things that stood out to me, let's talk about real quick with UAB's quarterback situation. So Tyler Johnson returns after starting last year. Yeah, okay, real quick before I want to get to the UAB. Yeah, I got some stats at the top of the screen at the wide receivers. So I have those with, and then to add to that, Michael Redding the third, the third. He had 2 touchdowns, and he had 2 touchdown catches. Will Mallory and Cameron Harris each caught a touchdown as well. So those are the stats I have right now. I will continue to update that on the website. Hopefully some more stuff comes out tomorrow. It typically has happened that way, where there is a little bit more stats come out a few days later. And also hopefully tomorrow as well, expecting the highlights. I'm definitely going to get that up on the site as well. If you could follow be sure to subscribe. And what also helps too is if you hit the bell for notifications, you can definitely find out as soon as I get that up and get that posted. You can watch it, and that's definitely helpful as well. Yeah, Phil, I knew it was a third. It's one of those things when you think, I was overthinking it because I just rattle off. The second doesn't, you don't hear too many of the seconds, although Michael Irvin was referred to that, and there are certainly some other guys as well. Anyways, quarterback situation at UAB. So Johnson started last year, played pretty well early, so he goes 11 for 14, 99 yards and a touchdown at the beginning of the game. I thought he looked good. I thought he made some good throws. I thought he stood in the pocket and delivered the ball where it needed to go. Then he throws this crazy pass, gets intercepted. It was terrible. I joked on the website that it looked like me hitting the wrong button on a video game because it looked that bad. It was in coverage where he had another guy out to the flat where he could have thrown it to. So just a poor decision by Johnson there. Then he kind of unrattles a little bit. He goes 5 for 10 passing after he starts 11 for 14. And during that time, they decide to go with their freshman Lucero. And so then the commentators were talking about, okay, Johnson's dealing with a shoulder injury, okay, and he didn't have it wrapped or anything like that. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe he is hurt, but they're not gonna, it's not serious because they're gonna use it as a precaution. They want to have him for next week against Miami. That's what I'm thinking, right? Then he goes back in the game a few minutes left in the fourth quarter. So then it becomes, okay, why was he sitting? Are they looking to go with Lucero? Are they looking to make a change at quarterback? And Lucero was 7 of 9. I think 85 yards was the number. Threw a nice 88 yards. He had a nice touchdown pass, 18-yard strike there. So that was good for him, freshman. So I wonder, are they going to have a controversy? Are they trying to decide between the two? I think that's very interesting because, once again, Johnson goes back in the game. And I thought that was odd because the game was in hand. And, if it was a precaution, then why are you putting him back out there? So I thought that was very interesting. And if you're UAB, that is not a good situation to be going into against Miami. You'd like to make sure you know who your guy is. And so we'll see. So maybe Miami is catching them at a good time, even though it is Miami's first game. So we'll see. It's just something to watch, and it's something that caught my eye because, and I don't know if anybody would have just noticed it. If they just looked at the stats, they probably figured, oh, it was a blowout. They put the backup in at the end, when a game got out of hand. And like I said, announcers are saying he's dealing with a shoulder injury. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But then again, why the heck did he go back in the last, I think it was 4 or 5 minutes, he goes back into the game. Maybe 5 or something like that. He goes back in after sitting for quite a bit. So certainly the fourth, I think in the third, he had been sitting for a while and he didn't expect him back in. So I just think that's very interesting going into the Miami game. Touched on, the receivers, running game, offensive line. Thing that stood out to me there is they've got some size there. I mentioned that their average starting offensive line is 10 pounds heavier than what Miami's going to go into the game with their starting offensive line. I find that interesting because I think the perception would be, okay, Conference USA team, UAB, not as big of a high-profile team as Miami. They're going to be undersized. I think that's the line of thinking. So, but that's not what the case was, in particular with those positions, with offensive line. And they've got a good-sized receiver, good-sized running backs. Those are just things to watch for. And then defensive line, I know they had a big defensive lineman, like 6'7", something like that. So they do have some size. And I remember when I did a simulation of that team for the game, which you are not going to, I promise you, you're not going to see a UAB simulation out there. You might see other teams. You're not going to see people creating UAB from the ground up. But anyways, I had to get that out there. And one thing that I noticed when I was creating the teams was really going through the depth chart and really looking at their height and weights. It stood out to me that was pretty good for, once again, a team that maybe you didn't expect to have that size. So just something to keep in mind. And it's not that, obviously, it's not the biggest or it doesn't always matter or anything like that. It's just something, once again, just something to keep in mind. So, Mason, I think the thing is with UAB for me was like, and I know the score got a little ridiculous, but early on I thought they dominated. I thought they were in control. They get up 28-7. I thought even with the way Central Arkansas scored, if you're UAB, you're like, okay, that's fine, but we're in control. That had to have been the line of thinking, and the total yards backed it up. So I think if you're UAB, you look at it like that. Yes, they gave up a couple touchdowns late, maybe a couple too many early with the turnovers and those kind of things. And the UCA made some crazy plays to get a touchdown. But I don't think there's any question. UAB controlled the game. I did think they looked good. I think it's kind of what I expected. I think, once again, the big thing that stands out to me are those key positions on offense where the wide receiver is going to be a challenge and the running back. And I think if you're starting with two guys that can make plays, I think that's good. If you're UAB going up against Miami. So, and they won 9 games last year. They were a better team than Louisiana Tech and FIU. So if you're looking from Miami's standpoint, they definitely should have their eyes open and ready for it. So what have we got? I cannot believe we're an hour and 15 into this. I want to probably wrap this up soon. I think we kind of got to a bunch of things, and keep us here as well. Shout out to you. I'm glad you're here. What do we got? They'll be ready to play. Yeah, there's no doubt, because you know what? The thing you got to keep in mind is, even though the schedule changed quite a bit and you didn't know, Miami and UAB were always on the schedule together for this season. So UAB certainly should have been preparing for Miami for a long time, and they're aware of some of these things. With De'Eric, it's been known obviously that De'Eric was going to be on the team, so I'm sure they've been preparing to face him, and they'll be ready for sure. Again, they didn't know they were going to face him when they did, as the schedule has changed in that regards, but UAB is not a new addition to the team. It's not like some of the ACC teams, like a Clemson, for example, which was a late addition to the schedule. UAB was always on there, and certainly they'll be ready. And you got to figure they're going to be confident because they know what Miami did last year. That's the thing about when you have bad seasons and you don't dominate, you get teams to have confidence going into a game. That's why it's so important to play well against lesser teams, and especially don't lose those games. Yeah, that's the thing about FIU last year, man. They didn't have this great season. It wasn't a 10-win season, for example, for FIU. They definitely outplayed Miami. I'm not trying to say that they didn't, and they were a better team than Miami that day and things like that. But yeah, FIU was fighting to make a bowl game last year. So that's what it wasn't. Just like I said, it wasn't a good FIU team. That's what added to the loss even more. Okay, so what happened to Tate? Maybe we'll do that. Okay, Mason, yeah. Shout out to you, man. I know you'll be back. You're a huge fan, and definitely I appreciate your support. Vivek is here. Awesome. How'd the D-line do? I'm glad you're here. Shout out to you real quick before we wrap this thing up. And I just want to do it just because we're getting a little long here. As far as Tate goes, I felt like, you know what? Like, I think what's interesting with Tate is it felt like to me early on, as soon as he got to Miami, when we saw him in practices, it just didn't look right. It didn't look like the player that had all of the hype and all of the attention, if that makes sense. It felt kind of early on, you felt like that he was struggling. I think that's the biggest way to say it. So as far as what happened, I don't know of the explanation because there was so much that happened between, when he went to Ohio State and then last year. I do think if he had played last year, not in spots, I think he would have been able to figure it out and been productive. I think the team would have rallied around him. His passing percentages, completion percentages would not have been high, don't get me wrong. He would not have thrown for 330 yards most likely like De'Eric can do. Okay, so I don't want people to misconstrue that. I just think that Tate would have found a way to get it done if he was the guy, if he was if he just made a start, for example, and just like, okay, you're our guy this game and just have at it. I think he would have figured it out. And I say that because I do think there is some ability there. I just don't think it's not as clean in the passing game with his throwing ability. And I think that's what ultimately holds him back. And then now I think there's just such a huge difference of what De'Eric's able to do and then what Tate does. So we'll see. I think everyone's expecting Nkosi to be the backup because of he was ahead of Tate last year and has played more. But who knows? Maybe they do have a package for Tate. We've not heard that, and that's the thing. We've not seen anything, but it'll be interesting to see how this year goes for Tate, and I'm just definitely curious to see how the rest of his career goes moving forward. You definitely got to think about with Tate, though. I will say this. If you're thinking about a guy that can do different things and a guy like Rhett who wants to implement different guys, and I just don't know where exactly it fits in because Miami does have receivers. They do have running backs and tight ends. So when you start adding them all up, you're like, okay, they've got 4 receivers, 2 tight ends. That's 6. You add the 3 running backs. That's 9 different offensive weapons. Even if a guy like Tate can go in like he did against Florida last year, maybe provide some wildcat plays or some trickery with the quarterback situation, things like that you want to try. You have 9 other offensive weapons, so where does Tate really fit in with that? Also, whatever you're thinking Tate can do, De'Eric can do it better. That's just the reality. He's also that dual threat guy. He's got a better arm, a better playmaking ability, running with the ball in his hands. So I just don't think I don't see Tate having a role, but if you're an offense that wants to be creative, maybe you're seeing something where Rhett does want to get him involved, and we'll see. I don't think we'll see him in the first game. I think it'd be something that they break out, maybe against Louisville, but we'll see. I'm not expecting it. I'm just kind of thinking out loud with, once again, with what the offense, what they possibly might want to do. But yeah, Vivek, as far as the defensive line, didn't hear how it went tonight particularly. The only thing I'd say is I don't think there's anything to be worried about with Quincy and Jalen. Every time we've talked to guys after practice, after scrimmage, just any kind of discussion with the defensive line, everybody's been raving about, everybody's been praising the two of them quite a bit. I touched on it earlier, but I do think John Ford and Nesta have things to prove this year. I think it's important for them to do that because you don't want teams on their offensive line to be able to neutralize what Miami has at defensive end. I think it's very important for the defensive tackles to play well, and but I just don't think there's anything to be worried about with Quincy and Jalen. I think there's a chance that both of them could have 10 sacks this year. I think that would, again, that might feel like a bold statement because you go less games. Miami's not had a duo with 10 sacks since 06. So it's not automatic, even though you like both guys. There's been other times Miami's had good pass rushers, and it just hasn't happened. 10 is a lot. I just think it is a possibility, and it wouldn't surprise me. So I don't think with those guys there's anything to be worried about. And if they're not productive, the defense is going to have trouble for sure. Okay, J Miami, yeah. I think the thing with the FIU thing, I don't think it's just that, man. I think I cannot get out of my head, and I know that. So I think it's 0-5 when they had at least 7 days to prepare, or more than 7 days to prepare. That includes the bye weeks, that includes the bowl game. Essentially, I think it would be 0-6 if you count the opener because they had essentially 10 months to prepare. 9 months, so if you want to count that, but I cannot shake that out of my head. And it's not just the FIU thing. If it was just one game, you'd feel like, okay, it's terrible, but it does happen. It's not the FIU, it's the Duke, it's the Louisiana Tech trio that's like, what in the heck? It's not even just those three, it's 7 losses altogether. How do you let that happen? What I also don't understand, with the coaching stuff that went on last year, if you want to get all into it, like, I think it's very clear, if you've been paying attention to Manny's comments about being connected and having a leader at quarterback, look, he's basically a lot is being thrown at Jaron Williams, right? But nobody made Manny pick Jaron Williams to be the starting quarterback. Like, let's be honest, like, I just think it's, and not only, there were times throughout the year where there was Jaron skipping out on practice and then deciding to go ahead and still start him. The team's not winning games and you still start him. The team is struggling at the end of the year and you still start him in the bowl game after you say you open it up. Like, you could have went with Nkosi. You could have thrown Tate in there just to see what Tate's about. I mean, maybe you guys don't think much of Tate. Maybe I don't either. All these things, but like, maybe you want to see it. Like, Manny had opportunities to reverse the course, to change action, and make changes, and we just didn't see that last year. And I think that is something that you definitely want to see moving forward. Maybe you chalk it up as a first-year coach, and that's definitely what you're hoping for. Hopefully, maybe you're looking at the offensive coordinator. Maybe everything's just going to be different. But it's not just the quarterback situation with Jaron or struggling out of bye weeks. It's the Zach McLeod situation with deciding midway through, hey, maybe we should redshirt this guy. Like, there's got to be some coaching, managerial things that you've got to be on top of as a coach. And I thought there was a little too much of that last year. And once again, the one thing, maybe you're hoping it's a first-year coach thing. The only thing I'd say is Manny's been around college football for quite a long time and high-profile programs. So I think that's the one thing that I'd say about that. J Miami, what's going on? I appreciate the support, the super chat. I appreciate it, man. That's awesome. I'm definitely excited about that. But huge shout out to you for being here and in here, and the fact that you're dropping it on these questions, giving me something to talk about. I always appreciate that. So definitely glad you're here, and everyone else is here. Vincent, what's going on? The microphone's too low. We're an hour and a half into it. I wish you would have said earlier. Yeah, basically, I'm not using my mic right now. I had to go with the phone here. Hopefully, maybe turn it up, and I'll get this thing sorted for next time. But I definitely just want to give you guys a chat just because I said I was going to do it. I definitely feel bad that it wasn't clean the way I would like. Especially I go some new graphics. It's a final scrimmage. Season's around the corner. But you know what? I want to do a live stream again before the first game. And I definitely want to get everything set. And Vincent, you're right, man. I apologize that the mic is not good. Earlier, I was dealing with static. Had some issues with the chat. It was a bit of a mess trying to get everything sorted and frustrating for sure. But glad you're here. Glad you stopped in. Apologize that the mic's not working. So I'm trying, and yeah, it's one of the it's the thing about the live stream that's a little frustrating is, and maybe I think that's the thing. It just maybe I think some people like to maybe see it more, but it is frustrating that things don't always just work out with the technology sometimes. So, but yeah, I did not throw the computer out the window even though I wanted to. But really what helps with that or anything going on, man, like, is just all of your support. Like, you guys are still here right now, and many of you waited to let me get through this, and just definitely appreciate it. So, Neo, I'm glad you're here. I know you were here earlier. Shout out to you for being here earlier. Had those issues I was just talking about. And you're working, man, you're working late, man. Like, I'm just out here trying to, and really, like, if you want to think about this, if I would have just had things in control earlier, I would have been done much sooner. So, yeah, this is on me. So, I think that's interesting that how much will Miami invest in promoting King for the Heisman? You know what's interesting? Yeah, you haven't heard anything yet. I find it interesting. Maybe we should start it, Neo. Like, maybe we should get this thing going. I got some merch here. Maybe we start. Maybe we get this thing going on. A Heisman, a King for Heisman. I don't know. One thing I'll say this. So you want to talk about? Yeah, let's talk about. Okay, so teams often create Heisman campaigns earlier in the year, and yeah, you know what? I'll show you guys real quick what I'm talking about. So yeah, they create different things, and one of the things I felt was very interesting was at Houston. Ed Oliver, the defensive lineman who got a lot of hype, they actually sent something to media members around the country. And sometimes this happens. It's rare for me. I don't cover Houston. I'm not a national reporter, anything like that. But they sent me a promotional item. I'm going to show you it real quick. I'll be right back. I want to show you because talking about it is one thing, but you got to see this thing. So hold on one second. Okay, so I'm back here with this promotional item that Houston sent to reporters to promote him for the Heisman, and it is a bobblehead of Ed Oliver on a horse. There's an inside joke there with him, and you see it right here. So this is something that Houston sent out to reporters, and once again, I am not a national reporter. I obviously do not have a vote for the Heisman. You can see it here, the Houston Oreo, if you can see that. But yeah, they sent that out. They have the nice little jersey Oliver thing. So anyways, I found that interesting, kind of cool. I collect bobbleheads, so glad to have it. Definitely didn't expect it, and but definitely pretty cool. Just an example of something that people do, that schools do for Heisman campaigns. I would like to see it from Miami. They try to hype up a lot of stuff. You guys see it with what they do. I don't even need it. I don't even know why I have these. I don't know why. Usually because I have my headphone situation with the microphone. Anyways, yeah, I think it'd be good because I think he's a legitimate candidate. He's a guy that's proven that's what you like. It's not just this complete unknown. He's a guy that's put up monster numbers in the past. If Miami has a good year, why not why not him? So we'll see. I'm interested in that as well. It'll be interesting, and maybe it happens after that first game. Like if what you saw tonight, and I'm not saying Derek's going to throw 6 touchdown passes, but if he has this kind of number where he goes 330 passing yards, just jumping on right now, if you guys don't know, he threw for 330 yards, 94 yards rushing, 6 passing touchdowns in tonight's scrimmage. So if he has any numbers like somewhat similar with the touchdowns, what if he has 5 touchdown game? I think that he's definitely he'll be mentioned there, and I think going into the big games, we'll see. So I think that, I guess if you're looking for a promotion, if you're looking at the schedule, if they beat Clemson and they don't lose the other 2, if they go 4-0 and beat Clemson and on an upset, that means Derek's going to have a good game. I think he's going to vault himself right into the top, and I think maybe that's when you'll see, if you're talking about when will Miami, if Miami will promote him, I think that might be the thing. The other thing I would say is, Neo, is I think teams are just going to be happy with playing games, understanding the situation around the country, and maybe doing those extra things is going to feel a little different than it normally would. Maybe an example of that for us, from our standpoint, with the way interviews have been going, we didn't have a media day this year, and I know it would have been a lot different. But usually media day is great for a team to get out plenty of information on their team, create hype and all that stuff. Oh, and real quick, if you guys don't know, single game tickets will be on sale on Monday. If you guys didn't hear that, but they didn't do it, and they could have. And we've been doing our interviews through Zoom. But my point is, they could have done something like that. But maybe that was one of the reasons, just to maybe tone it down a little bit. So I think maybe teams are dealing with that across the country and just worried about maybe just playing and seeing how things go. Okay, Sports Shy is here. Shout out to you. I know you're from Chicago. When we did that roll call before, I remember you said that as well. So, and remember that. Remember when we did that roll call and I shouted out Montreal, California? That's because he put his state abbreviation. I didn't know there wasn't one in California. I obviously know where Montreal is. But anyways, I just brought that up again, and maybe you guys didn't know that, but all right. Phil, they got Slim Jim over there. Yeah, they went with James. It's definitely a different quarterback than Derek. I don't think there's any question about that. So, all right. I think we're going strong here, but I am winding down. Maybe we're gonna wrap this up soon. If anybody has any let's do a final questions. Let's get them out there on the chat if you guys are still here. If you guys have some final things to get to, and once again, I want to do a live stream. I want to do it right before you guys have a show. Definitely leading up to the first game there on Thursday. We'll figure that out. But yeah, or maybe we do some sort of season preview thing. I think it'd be great. But yeah, if you guys have any extra questions, I'm gonna do one little last T-shirt thing. You know what? I'm gonna show you guys this one. I'm gonna show you this one little one extra shirt here, the retro tee, and it has the date on there. I don't know if you have to click on it, but it says since 2007 is mentioned on there. That's when we launched InsideTheU. So if you guys want to show your support, pick up a retro tee or any other tee, you can do that as well. So wrap this thing up. Sports Side. The big thing with the O-line, and I wrote an article this week about it, but I feel like it's shaping up. I feel like they're going to go with, here's what I got. So starting left to right, left tackle, John Campbell, left guard, Usman Troyor, center Corey Gaynor, right guard DJ Scaife, and then right tackle Jared Williams. Those are the 5 I expect them to go with on Thursday. I think maybe that's a little bit surprised in the sense that maybe you guys are expecting Zion Nelson. Started all 13 games last year at left tackle. He's bigger, but it feels like just John Campbell is just ahead of him. It felt like that in the spring. They moved Zion to left guard a little bit in the fall, but it just feels like Traore, they like him. for whatever reason, it just feels like that's what they want to go with, and I feel like that's what they'll do. And also too, although Zion did play, he did struggle at times last year. It wasn't clean, but I think many people thought maybe he would make that jump, and the experience he got, that was essentially the whole point of getting him experience. They had older guys, but he just didn't develop the way they would have liked, and so I don't think he'll start. Ja'Kai Clark at right guard started 12 games last year, and he's found himself in a reserve role. So I think those are the two big names you're not expecting there, and I wrote about that. Those are the five, the two reserves, and then the other one to watch for is Cleveland Reed, who has moved from guard to center. Corey's been working with him at center. I don't think Cleveland is at that caliber to challenge Corey. I just think it's something to watch for in the future because you will need a center moving forward. And I find it interesting that they're giving Cleveland a look there, although Ja'Kai could certainly play center. That's what you expected him to play when he arrived, coming there out of high school in Georgia. So that's kind of how it's shaken out offensive line. I think the big thing as far as how they're holding up, I think you're going to see massive improvement at right tackle with Jared Williams. And it's nothing against what they had, last year with Scaife. It's just that Scaife kind of can move to right guard and solidify that. And so now you get an extra spot where you feel better about what's going on that right side. I think it's going to be very interesting, even though they like Campbell and Traore on the left side. I think that's a question mark without a question, because they don't have that experience. John started 2 games last year, was a reserve the rest, and then Traore only played in 2 games. So definitely interesting to see how that's going, and we'll get to see it on Thursday. So that's offensive line. Who do you think would score first against UAB, and how? Phil, that's a good question. I would say I wouldn't be surprised to see Jalen reel off a long run. I just don't know if he's going to be there on that first drive. If you want to say who score first, I guess I'd go conservative and say Cam Harris, finding the end zone, grinding out a drive, 9 plays, 71 yards, and a touchdown, like 8-yard run, something like that. Like maybe just a simple, like a good progressive kind of plays, kind of moving forward. So that'll be my pick. I'll go with that. I like the question though. Maybe we should do a game, some sort of challenge. But I like that. Cody, is Albay going to be a real threat at cornerback, or do you think he'll be passed by DeCorey? I think Al's got a lot to prove. I think the one thing that Al has to prove he can contain the pass when the ball is in the air. I think sometimes he gets lost. I think his footwork gets a little bit off, a little bit with his technique. He doesn't get his hands on the ball as much as you would like. Whereas I say that as maybe weaknesses with Al, and I feel like those are strengths with DeCorey. And I think, once again, I touched on it earlier, if Mike's really serious about putting guys ahead of guys who have played in the past, that would be a big move. I think it's just going to depend on how they play. I guess I'm just a little reluctant to, will they really make those moves without injuries? Will they just make a drastic decision? And I think that would be I don't know if drastic's the right word, but just a decision to play a guy that hasn't played much over a guy who has. But we'll see. Okay, so Zion, 75 pounds. You're wrong for that, Phil, but I'm glad for the laugh over late here. Zoo Pride is here, still going strong after dark. Zoo, I'm glad. I was waiting for you to jump on, and now we can wrap this up because you stopped by. Honestly, I did say I was gonna finish up soon. I'm not just leaving because you're here, but it's going a little stronger later because I messed up earlier. I couldn't get this stuff working with the audio, and I still think it's a little off based on what you guys are saying. It's a little low. It's because I'm not using my mic. Issues with the chat earlier, but one thing that there was no issue with is the support, and the chat is going strong right now, and I'm glad because I think it's good for people that watch it back. For people that can't be here tonight, I think people not just hearing me ramble around, but they like seeing what you guys say as it's going on, and that's why I think it's so important to put that in the video for people to watch back. So yeah. Phil, that's interesting with Malik. The only thing I would say, even though he's making plays, and I know what you're talking about, he had a big touchdown tonight, and he's done well there. The only thing, Phil, is you're looking at the wide receiver group. You're talking about 4 receivers that came in this year, right? Okay, and so then next year, the way it's looking like with Brinson, Brashard Smith, and why is it escaping me? I'm missing someone. Not Brantley. Who's the other? Man, it's late, but you guys, there's another wide receiver. But anyways, the point is they're bringing in different receivers. Go ahead and drop in the name so I get it right. And I know I should know it off the top of my head. But anyways, it's late, and but my point is they're bringing in receivers. They're gonna have maybe a crowded group. So we'll see. The one thing I would say is if Malik wants to play wide receiver, then do that. Like if that's what you feel strong about and that's what you want to play. And I don't know what he wants to do, or if he's just open to either. That they'll decide based on when he gets here. But I definitely think if he's going to make plays, look, put him wherever he makes plays. And then, Jacoby, of course. I knew it was like a lighter receiver because I know that's another thing to think about with Miami doesn't have the size of receiver. And I remember thinking, okay, they're also they're getting 3 guys that don't have the size, that 200-plus receiver. And Jacoby's another one. But I like Jacoby. I really like his abilities, his bounce. I like his athletic. I like that he can go up and get it. I like what he is. I like that he feels like a guy that can keep getting better, and I think that's going to be fun to watch with him out of Plantation High. So yeah, definitely got a chance to see Jacoby last summer. So I've definitely seen him. Just slipped my mind real quick on this one, but the point is they're bringing in a bunch of receivers. Going to have a young group, and we'll see. And Phil, the one thing I'd say about Malik, it's not a surprise to see underrated players from Southwest Florida. Just speaking off right now, we're getting ready to go see one with UAB. Austin Watkins is from that area. Their backup running back, Lucius Stanley's from that area. So it's not a surprise to see guys be underrated from that area. So if they can play, they can play. You guys know that. So, and maybe that's how we'll wrap it up. We've gone strong. We were able to finish this thing off because we've been waiting for Zoo Pride to be here, and he showed up, so that was great. Sports Shy, obviously, and obviously everybody else that has been here for a long time. You guys are great, so definitely appreciate you. Let's wrap this thing up. Once again, I appreciate you just a ton. I appreciate you for your patience, for your support always, not just tonight. I appreciate that you're so diehard fans about the Miami Hurricanes. Gives me something to talk about, write about, and then do these kind of things. So we're going to wrap this thing up. Once again, I'm going to do this again. I want to get everything. It's really frustrating that things didn't work out with the technology because I did all my tests earlier and I thought everything was going to be okay. But anyways, I'm going to make sure next time, no issues. I'm going to keep working on the graphics and working on some other things and give you guys something good to watch. Definitely appreciate everybody once again. Everybody be well. It's time to get excited. De'Aaron King is the truth. Maybe we need to start that De'Aaron King for Heisman stuff. And season's just around the corner. Hopefully everyone has a good weekend. Stay safe, be well, you and your friends and family for sure. So definitely appreciate everybody, and I'll talk to you guys later.